coming out tonight. My name is Cody Higley, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for tonight's forum event. This event, unlike the one we held a couple weeks ago, which featured the state rep candidates for the 86th district, this features the 4 candidates in the Republican primary for Marion County Commissioner. Mr. Tim Mooney, let's give him a round of applause. Christy Neff, round of applause. Mr. Jason Schaubert. And Mr. Ken Stuyvesant. Thank you, candidates, for showing up tonight and allowing the voters to hear what you think about the important issues facing Marion County. And I do want to point out that we've got 3 signs up here on the stage. Mr. Mooney, he had to have run out of signs. They're all over the county, so it stands to reason he didn't have one to spare for tonight. But again, thank you all for coming here. I'd also like to send a shout out to our host for tonight's evening, which is Calvary Bible Baptist Church. It's a beautiful facility. Thank you so much for hosting. And Pastor Floyd Radeball back there manning the soundboards. So thank you, Pastor, and thank you to the congregation. Also like to extend some gratitude to our organizers of tonight's event. Judy O'Hare, where's Judy at? Oh, there she is. She's coming in, making a stylish entrance. Thank you, Judy. And also Mary Stoneburner there in the middle row, about halfway back. And me, Cody Higley. He's here for me. And tonight's forum event is broadcasted by Marion Watch. It's live streamed by Jason Foreman and Javen Foreman here. So be sure to check it out on the archive version. So you can go on Marion Watch, Operation Marion Watchman, and view it. Jason's actually going to post it in, is that 4K?
It'll be up probably tomorrow.
I'm not techie. Is 4K? Is that what we're talking about? Okay. 4K, it's really good. You can ask your grandchildren about it. 4K is really good. All right, so be sure to check that out. And then also want to thank Pastor J.D. Haas of New City Fellowship. Last time I said LaRue Baptist, it's New City Fellowship. So he's going to be tonight's moderator, so let's hear for him. And now it's that time to recognize the politicians who have joined us in the audience tonight. You get more voters in one room, folks, and a politician is attracted to it like a moth to a flame. So that's why they're all here tonight in the crowd. All right, so we've got Pam Larkin over here on the left side. She's not left to center politically, folks. Now, that's not what this group is. This is a bunch of grand old partiers. So we got Pam Larkin from Marion City Council representing the 2nd Ward. So let's hear it for Pam. Also right in the middle, we got Kevin Davidson, who is currently one of the 3 members of Marion Commissioners, Board of Commissioners. And who else do we have here? We got Mary Stoneburner, who is the president of council. All right, my eyes are getting a little bit old, so it's hard for me to see anybody in the back. Oh, I see one guy in the back. That's Sean Marr, Marion City Council, President Pro Tem, 1st Ward. And we have a former Marion City Councilman, or Commissioner, Kerr Murray. And we've got former Marion City Councilman Mike Neff. Did I miss anybody? All right, I think I got everybody there. So thank you all for coming out here tonight. All right, so a former Democrat, and I hate to bring up Democrats at a GOP event, but former Democrat Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill once said that all politics is local. He may have been wrong on his political convictions, but he was certainly correct in that sentiment. American politics is far too concerned with what happens at the national level. Sure, it's important, but so is what happens right here at home. And boy, do we have a lot going on right here at home. From budget deficits, spending increases, and fiscal uncertainty, to a relative lack of economic development and slow but steady declines in population, there certainly are some challenges in our county. But they're not insurmountable. Whichever of these four candidates is elected to the Republican primary on May 5th will be your next Marion County Commissioner, since the winner will not face an opponent in the general election on November 3rd. He or she represents 1 vote out of 3 on the Board of Commissioners. 1 vote out of 3 with the power to influence where this county, with its roughly 65,000 people and its general fund budget of nearly $34 million, goes over the next 4 years. Will the victor uphold the principles of small government, individual responsibility, transparency, accountability, low taxes, and fiscal conservatism? Or will they place their faith in the false god of big government? Tip O'Neill was right. All politics is local. So let's get to know your local candidates for county commissioner. Before I hand things off to Pastor Haas, I do want to talk about how this forum will be conducted. We're going to start with a prayer here in a minute by Pastor Haas. After that, we'll proceed with the opening statements by the candidates. They'll get 5 minutes to say what they want, up to 5 minutes. After that, our moderator, Pastor Haas, will ask a series of 5 questions. Each candidate will be allowed up to 3 minutes to respond to each question. All 5 questions will be asked of all 4 candidates, and questions will start alphabetically and alternate alphabetically as we progress through the questions. Now, keeping time, you all up here want to direct your attention to Mary Stoneburner and her friend Jenny. Is that right, Jenny?
Jenny's back further.
Jenny's back further. All right, just. All right. Well, Mary, they're gonna look at you for that.
Did you see that? Candidates.
So that's 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Sorry, as big as I can get it, and then you'll get a time.
And then time. So keep your eye on that. And following the moderator questions, we'll open things up for questions from the audience. So I've already done the announcement about how to submit a question. Kathy Fillion, right there, she has note cards and pencils, so if you do have a question that you want to ask, fill out a note card, let Kathy know, and then she will give it to me and I will deliver the question to the candidates. If it's a question for all 4, please indicate as much, and each candidate will get 3 minutes to respond. If it's directed to one candidate, actually, I have it reversed. If it's all 4, they'll get 1 minute. If it's one candidate, then they'll get 3 minutes. So just try to put that on the card. We do want to make sure that everybody knows, be respectful in the substance of your question. Questions should be confined strictly to the issues and not personalities. Any offensive, inappropriate, or irrelevant questions will not be read. I try not to censor. We're good conservative folk here, so I'm sure we won't get anything too crazy. But just in case a Democrat slipped in, then I might have to censor it. All right, so, and if you have a cell phone or electronic device, which everybody nowadays does, please make sure it's turned off or put on silent. All right then, enough for the ground rules, enough for me gabbing about. Let's get this show on the road. Pastor Haas, take it away with the prayer, buddy.
Please pray with me. Gracious Father, faithful God. We thank you for our country. We thank you, Father, for this time and place to meet here. We thank you for our community, our county, and God, we pray for truth to be spoken tonight, for wisdom and your wisdom to guide our thinking. And God, I pray that you would exalt your name. And Father, we do pray as there are things going on outside of these walls in this county tonight. We do pray for peace, especially with what's happening in Iran. And but God, we ask for your blessing here and now. Please lead and guide, and please make our decisions clear. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Can I have that chair? Or is that your stuff too? So, as Cody said, we'll be proceeding alphabetically to begin with. So, and that'll be true for the introductions and then also for the first question. And after that, the second, who was second the previous round, will go first, and we'll just cycle through. And one other note that I would add is last time with the congressional candidates, one of them didn't use their whole time and then chimed in with more of an answer later. Kind of caught me off guard, and we're not doing that tonight. Your time is your time, and so use whatever time you have, and when you're done, it's being passed along. Okay, does that make sense? All right, very good. Well, to begin with, our first question tonight is about the proposed connector. Okay, so here's the question.
Intro.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I did the same thing last time.
You did.
5 minutes each. Starting with you, Tim. Go for it.
Okay, I apologize. I did not get something in the meet and greet here. That's my fault. Anyway, I'm going to read off of this. This is off one of my handouts. I'm a lifetime conservative Republican and businessman of 47 years. Is it on? Hello. It's on. Lifetime conservative Republican and businessman of 47 years, Marion County resident for 56 years. Started in public service as a councilman and then zoning inspector for the village of Caledonia in the 1980s and 1990s. I became a Clarendon Township trustee in 2008, and I'm still serving into my 19th year. Currently chairman of the District Advisory Council for Marion Public Health, current board member of the Marion County Emergency Management Agency, chairman of the Marion County Township Association, board member of the Regional Planning Commission, Marion County, and I'm a rotating board member of First Consolidated Fire District. I'm a 1975 graduate of River Valley High School. I played football there. I also coached football there from 1987 to 1999. I had the pleasure of coaching quite a nice crowd of young men. So, and I coached the first lady that played football at River Valley, Mary Braun. Never forgot that. So anyway, I began my officiating football in 2000 after I quit coaching, and I continued officiating for 18 years. I had my own crew. We went around the whole state on Friday night doing varsity games. I also did JV games on Saturday morning and 7th, 8th, and 9th grade games through the week. I was an EMT for First Consolidated Fire District for 11 years, and that was one of the most rewarding things I think I've ever done. Helping our fellow man. I ran with First Consolidated when it was a volunteer organization. Now it's a paid full-time. I'm a 20-year member of the Fraternal Order of Police Associates, and I support their functions, their golf outings and different things that they do. I also rent the house or the clubhouse there quite often. I belong to the Flywheels Car Club, and I enjoy attending those shows and sponsoring those trophies. And one thing about my start in life, I was born in Lima, Ohio. Most of my family lives in Lima, Ohio. my family moved to Terre Haute, Indiana from Lima. I lived there for a few years. Then we moved to Marion in 1970. I remember when we came to Marion, I was so impressed because they had the Marion Cadets, and they also had the big cadet show, I think it was in the fall or late summer. But that was very impressive. And I do know that back in 1970, when my family moved to Marion, this town was booming. The industry was unbelievable in this town. At that point, I moved to Findlay my junior year of high school, went to school up there at Van Buren on the north side of Findlay for 1 year. I left home when I was 17, moved back to Marion. I wanted to finish out my high school career at River Valley and play football. And unfortunately, my brother was in a very serious motorcycle accident, so I ended up taking care of him for quite a while, and I ended up living with him. And then I got to play football and finish out my high school career. I know that in 1975, I finally turned 18 years old. Well, football was over. I needed a job. So I went to work at J.G. Clark Company, third shift, and I worked there third shift and went another 5 months of high school, getting off third shift at 7 o'clock in the morning, had to be at school at 7:55. So I worked third shift, went to school, and that's kind of where I'm at. Then got married, had a couple children. I raised my children in Caledonia. And it was always funny. I told a lot of my family back in Lima when we would go there for holidays and different things. I said, people in Caledonia, I said, they don't even lock their cars. They leave their keys in their cars. And they said, no, there's no way. And I said, yeah, it's Mayberry RFD. And my kids were fortunate to be able to walk to school. So that was I thought, kind of unique. But anyway, they're grown now. My son is 50 years old, and my daughter is 44 years old, and I have 5 grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Well, hello, my name is Christy Neff, and I'm a lifelong Marion native, I guess you could say, as of the age of 6. I currently serve as the program director for Buckeye Ridge Habitat for Humanity, and with that job, I oversee our community engagement, our restore, and our construction. So I have a lot of hats that I wear within that organization. They're not exactly happy at the possibility of me leaving and becoming the Marion County Commissioner because I very much enjoy what I do. I will say that through the community engagement portion of what I do, it's allowed me to really understand the needs within Marion County. It's afforded me the ability to become an advocate. So I very much am always advocating for what is happening within our community. One of the things that I see right now is that many people think they need to stay in their own lanes. And I believe that we need to come together to collaborate. Because when we do so, we absolutely get so much more done. I've been told that I'm absolutely a connector, and I believe that to be true. I have so many times where people will come to me and say, Christy, I need some help with this, and I can navigate and facilitate someone connecting with each other, and that makes such a difference in how we operate and how we manage within a society that we need to work together in order to get things done. I am absolutely a fixer. Many people say that sometimes I take on too much. But what I like to do is I love to see, if there's an issue in front of me, I like to see an end result. And so that's where this very much appeals to me to become your next Marion County Commissioner. And one of the things I love about our community is that I see so much happening right now. I think that we're in a mode to where everyone is looking to move Marion forward. And as an organization that I am a part of with Habitat, it gives me that ability to see that. And so now, in another role, another way to serve, I see this as Marion County Commissioner being an opportunity to serve in a different role. For me, I've been a part of the Marion Republican Party for many years as their candidate co-chairs. So to be honest, I've been behind the scenes for many candidates when they had the desire to serve our community. And with that, I've seen so many people gravitate to just heights to where they have been very, very effective in the roles that they've been granted by your elections. So for me to step out from behind the scenes has been a little bit of a challenge for me. To speak about myself is a little hard. Sometimes that humble side of me is difficult sometimes to speak about myself and the things that I've accomplished. But what I see for my future with my community, with my neighbors, is to be able to serve them in a different role. And I would appreciate the vote for Marion County Commissioner. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jason Schauber, and I would like to thank Calvary for hosting this event. And a little bit of a fun fact about me, I was raised in this church. I can say that was the only drug that I did. I was drugged to the church every Sunday. And my wife and I recently in February celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. We have twin sons. And I have two beautiful granddaughters, Paisley and Graceland. I've served on city council for a total of 14 years. And I look forward to this evening with answering all your questions and being as completely transparent as I can be.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the organizers of this event, and I've been there before and there's similar events, but a little bit of my history. I won't go on a lot of it, but I graduated from Ridgedale High School, attended Ohio State University, and spent 2 years in the Army, 14 and a half months in Vietnam, and I married my wife Janet. We have 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren, and I returned to Marion and started farming and worked at Whirlpool for 40 years and retired from there, and got involved in the local agriculture events, Fair Board, and been on there 20 years, and helped with the junior fair part of it mostly, and been a barn advisor for more years than most people want to know. I'm on the 3rd generation of some of the young people who are participating now. With the pork producers, I got involved there and moved up to, in 1990, I was president of the Ohio Pork Producers, and also served on the National Livestock and Meat Board. I've been chairman of the Junior Fair Livestock Sale Committee since 1993. I spent 9 years on the River Valley School Board at the same time as we built all the new schools. Served on the Tri-Rivers Board, was president of the River Valley School Board. Of course, I'm a member of the Marion County Republican Club, and at this time I serve as chairman of the Marion County Republican Party. I'm a member of the Rotary Club in Marion and serve on the board of directors for the Rotary Club and the foundation. I'm very involved in Dayspring Wesleyan Church, vice chairman of the administrative board there, and a member of the Marion Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I've enjoyed 12 years, as you know, as the Marion County Commissioner. The greatest thing that I've done and all those other things, but I just really like to serve the people of Marion County, and I would like to do it for another term as your Marion County Commissioner. Thank you.
Now we get to that connector. Thank you for the introductions, and so here we go. And Tim, you'll have the opportunity to answer first. This is the question. It actually has a few questions in it. But I'll give you the setup here. House Bill 54 authorized a feasibility study for the construction of a new $500 million plus highway connector between Interstate 71 at Marengo in Morrow County to US 23 in Richland Township here in our county. Of course, many homes and farms in the county would be greatly impacted by this new highway should state officials move forward with its construction. So the first question is, do you support or oppose this project? And your reasons, why or why not? And with that, if elected commissioner, how do you plan to address this project? So that has to do with the project itself. Are you for or against it? Why or why not? And how would you address it if you were elected? But then the last question here is more of a principle. How should policymakers balance economic development interests with those of the people living in the communities who may be negatively impacted, just generally speaking? So, Tim?
Am I up?
Yes.
I might have to go back
That's fine.
and ask me those questions again. But right off the bat, I would like to say that the 23 I-71 connector, I am not for it in its proposed form. So I believe that something has to be done, but not in Marion County. I think Route 23 on the south side of the dam in Delaware could actually be connected to 71 and by way of State Route 521 and 42 in that area down there. If you look at the map, I've got a map here. It's very simple. When I went to the Marion Coliseum and looked at these proposed maps, the first thing that jumped out to me was, what's the shortest distance between 23 and 71? Well, it sure wasn't what I saw coming through Marion and Morrow County. It was what I saw down here on the north end of Delaware, right below the dam. And if you look at it, it cuts right over to State Route 42 and State Route 521 connect together. So to me, it's the shortest distance, and I just think that would be the proper place to put it. I guess for Marion County, the State Route 23, when it was built, I believe in the 60s, I think that was, already set up to be an interstate, I believe. And I think some things were probably done wrong to allow too many crossroads on it. There are a few overpasses, but I think that 23 needs to be upgraded. So I think the original Route 23, fix that up. If you want to connect it, do it down in Delaware County. Do it at the shortest distance. And I think Marion County, if you look at the sacrifices that were made back even when they expanded State Route 23, talked to some of the people whose land was, taken or purchased, I guess. But anyway, it was their land. And so they've already sacrificed that. Then you want to go back into the 1940s. Marion sacrificed a bunch of land for the war effort. And when they had the depot, and they built Marion Ordnance Depot. So I see I have 30 seconds, thank you. So yeah, I think we need to do something with the connection, but I think it should be in the county where the problem is. Thank you.
Christy, you're next.
Oh,
So,
no, you finish,
well,
finish the questions, or do we?
I guess I long-winded that.
that's okay. The last question I think you didn't address is just generally, how should policymakers balance economic development interests with how those who might be negatively impacted by?
Well, I think they have to find out, I'm sorry. To me, when I looked at the map, I go back to the economics of it. They're going to spend $500 million on this project. Why not do it down there? So you're still helping out business, because I've talked to business people and they said if I had access to Columbus and I could get down there and back, I could tap into that market. But I just can't do that. So.
Thank you. All right. Christy?
I'm absolutely, as many are, opposed to this connector, the way it's been proposed. I believe that it definitely is a Delaware problem and not a Marion County problem, and I believe they've made it our problem. I think where we're at right now, it is simply a study, as they've said, but all their proposals, I think, are not going to work for our area. What I've even heard, what's happened with having these meetings has been really good. I think we've had some great connections to where people have come up with ideas. There's one idea that I thought was very good was to actually have an elevated expressway that comes from 270 clear to the north side of Delaware City. They've done it in Delaware, actually, in that area, so why not do something like that? There have been people that have talked about widening 229. That causes more of a problem possibly as well, because 71 needs work. So there's all kinds of ways to possibly come up with solutions, but I think that ODOT was given this this task to come up with some ideas. I'm really surprised that it comes through Marion County as its primary goal. What we found out from Representative Tracy Richardson recently was that our voices really can be heard by April 14th. They're taking, basically they're asking us to give us their opinions. So there is an email that you can get to where you're encouraged to give your opinion, and they're truly going to be listening to that. I will put that on my Facebook page to give you that connection, but they're telling us use your voices, and I think that's what we need to do. So many of us right now are saying we're opposed to it, but we have to be able to figure out how to make our voices heard. And that's what they're saying at the State House, is that they're willing to do that if we reach out to them. I just believe that too much of the progress that came from Delaware right now, they grew and grew, but they gave too much access. And so for us, they actually had a logistics group that was from Marion Harding that identified how many stoplights there are now from Marion all the way to 270. It's astronomical. So the way that our traffic patterns are right now doesn't make sense. They're proposing a highway of Route 73 that's going to go from Michigan clear to, I believe, South Carolina. That actually is a part of that is with includes Route 23. So if we were to do a bypass, it's going to cause problems for that project as well. So I think we need to do better in how we make decisions, and ODOT will be listening to us.
I'm sorry, I need to.
If you have any more time, it's the general question of how should policymakers balance economic development interests with the way that communities could be negatively impacted?
That is a great question, because we need to bring resources within our community. So economic development is going to impact us in some ways. So that is where we have to find people that are smarter than us to figure out how we do these things. And that's where collaboration is a huge piece of what we do. So absolutely going to impact us, but we will need to do it together.
Yeah, I think you're going to find a lot of us, all four of us are going to give the same answer, that we oppose this route and it's Delaware's problems, and Marion and Morrow County should not be shouldering their burden. What I will say that probably separates me from the other answers, I don't like the way this was brought to us. House Bill 54 passed through the state legislature unanimously, and it was a dictate to make a connector road to 71 to shorten the commute time for people from Northwest Ohio to Columbus. And why didn't our state representatives give us a heads up? Why didn't they vote against it? Because they knew it was in the bill in the very beginning. That's where the discussion should be had, not when it's this late in the process. And yes, it is just a feasibility study, but they should have listened to us or told the counties that this study's coming your way. And another part of it that bothers me is it's with the Toll Road Commission. I don't know how you can economically develop a toll road. I don't think it's even possible.
So,
No, the second part.
well, yeah,
I think I did.
yeah, just generally, how should policymakers balance economic development interests with those interests of the people who live in the communities that might be negatively impacted, just generally speaking.
I think our state representatives and our has to understand the districts that they represent and our rural way of life, and understand how they should protect that. And we should not give up our rural way of life just for a road or very minimal return on investments that could be economic development.
Ken?
Yes, excuse me. I think everyone knows that Marion County and Morrow County oppose this. I think there's other ways to do this, as Tim has stated, but we've have a plan there to build this connector road, and from Toledo to Columbus, it'll save 10 minutes. And yes, it's going to help economic development. They want to get to the over from people from Central Ohio over to Intel whenever it gets done, for the economic development and people to get there. But the long and the short of the story is that Delaware has more money than Marion County and Morrow County, and they have more political influence in Columbus than we do. So it was pushed back to Marion and Morrow County to put it through there, and yes, and $500 million to do the study, and they've already spent $2.1 million on the study. So where they're getting the money, I don't know, but they just keep studying and studying. Delaware had their chance to do it, and I can't understand why Delaware has had so much expansion down there in housing. They should have known this problem was going to happen. From Waldo to Columbus, or 270 is 38 stoplights, so it is a little slow doing there. And now they've shut 315 down for construction on the or to fix the riverbanks there. So that's going to be shut down, and so I do oppose it, and I just feel so sorry for the people that are in the track of this. Some of them are 5-generation farmers, and split their farms up. And I'm a member of Ohio Farm Bureau, Marion County Farm Bureau. We had quite a lengthy discussion on this a month ago, and one of the gentlemen that was there was 5 generations their farm, and we'll separate that farm into about 6 different tracts now. So. And the Ohio Farm Bureau is on the side of Marion County and Morrow County too, and they do have members in Delaware County, but they still feel that it's a Delaware problem, and we shouldn't have to suffer in Marion County and Morrow County. Morrow County will suffer a lot more than Marion County, but you look at the track of the Bethlehem Road one, that just goes through some really nice housing areas in southeast Marion County, and I'll do all I can to, if elected commissioner, to oppose this and continue to oppose it in the long stretch.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this next question, it'll start, the answers will start with you, Christy, and then we'll go the same order, and Tim, you'll conclude, okay? So the next question has to do with property tax. So property tax bills have drastically increased in our county over the past 5 years, with increases exceeding 50%. With no practical solution being offered by state officials, there's a group of citizens currently collecting petitions to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot, which would eliminate property taxes in the state of Ohio. This initiative has strong support and is likely to pass if placed on a future ballot. The question is, do you support this citizen-driven ballot initiative to eliminate property taxes without exception? And then explain your position, why or why not.
This is tough because I definitely do believe that we need to focus on property taxes and reform. But to simply abolish the property taxes, I'm wondering if the reason behind that is to force the state to do something, because otherwise, how are we going to pay for those services that we need, that the property taxes actually pay for? If we're looking to abolish it completely, we have to have something to replace it. Our property taxes are something that have occurred for many, many, many years. Our grandparents have paid property taxes, our parents have paid property taxes, and now we do. It has definitely gone out of control to where I've seen many of our citizens right now that own their homes that actually can't maintain their homes because so much of their tax money is going out, or they're paying so much in property taxes right now. We have right now critical home repairs within Marion County that are astronomical because you can't afford to fix your roof on a house that you own. Right now, there has to be some reform that's happening. At the State House, we've been informed that there are some different things that are happening right now. They're looking to increase the homestead exemptions. They're looking to do things that really do affect what's happening right now with people being so overwrought with the taxes right now. I think that we've just got to have something to replace it. 60% of our property taxes go to our schools and many of our services that would hurt the people within our community if those were taken away. So there's got to be a replacement. And right now, I'm not for the abolishment of the taxes, property taxes, but I'd like to see definite reform.
Yeah, I signed a petition because I think that we need to at least start the conversation. And that's how you start the conversation, is by circulating this petition. Now, do I agree with a light switch abolishment of property taxes? That will be rough because the fear of the unknown comes in. We don't know how these services will be paid for that rely on levies. And that fear of the unknown goes both ways too for the people that put levies on to provide services. They don't know if the levy will pass or not. So at minimum, I think we're going to start a conversation, and I hope that the state legislatures get together and get some true tax reforms, because Ohio is ranked 8th out of all states as highest property taxes and reliance on property taxes. So I hope this is a wake-up call to our state legislators and they do some true property tax reforms, and we won't have to have this battle at the ballot to, in a sense, create a light switch of turning off property taxes.
I'm like 100% of the people in here in the room tonight. I don't like paying taxes either, but what's the alternative to it? We know our schools are funded. That's our biggest tax on our tax bill. We have townships. We have the Department of Developmental Business, DD, and Tri-Rivers and so on. And we have to educate these young people, and townships will suffer, county will suffer, city will suffer. If some of you remember back in the Kasich era, they balanced the state budget by taking local government funds away from the cities and the counties and balanced their budget. So that put the counties and the cities in a real pinch fiscally for revenue at that time. And I just agree with everyone else. Give me a plan of how you're going to do it. And I don't think we want to be like Tennessee or some of the other states that have 12% sales tax to make up this difference. But they better come up with a better plan, or we need some new people in Columbus with better ideas than the one that's there. And I would tell them that also. But until they come up with a different plan, I can't see me or signing anything to abolish sales tax. And I agree with Christie that these people that can't afford to to keep their houses up anymore because they gotta pay their taxes, because they don't want their name in the paper at different times, but they come up with an idea how to fund all these local entities and children's services and DD and the county and the townships. I'll be all for it, but at this time I just don't know how they can abolish the sales or the real estate tax in Ohio. Okay, I think I have to say that I do not want to abolish the property tax until we have a plan. So what is the plan to replace it? It's going to be a sales tax. We're going to pay 20% sales tax to try to cover everything. What's our local? We're going to have a local income tax. We're going to have a state income tax. I believe that the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio twice has said that the way we fund the schools in the state of Ohio is illegal, and the legislature has never done anything about it, and it's been for many, many years. And 60% of our property taxes go to schools. So I was just doing a little math on myself with the property tax. So if you're taking property tax away, 60% of that goes to the schools, 20% of that goes to fire and EMS services. So there's 80% of what we pay goes to schools and fire. Now, with me and my business and my home and my investment property, if I paid it monthly, I would be paying about $530 a month just for the privilege of living in my home and having what I have. I think as soon as we have a plan and the legislature from Ohio has a plan, I really believe that we have to change the way property tax is done. Just to abolish it though in one fell swoop, I can't see that happening because I think everybody in here is going to need the services. Definitely we need our schools. We definitely need fire and EMS. All of us are going to use that at some point. So until the state comes up with a plan, I don't disagree with Jason. I think it'll be flipping a switch if this gets done, because then they're not going to have any choice. But I just wonder about the transition. I worry about that transition. So I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe this will prod the state a little bit to get on board and figure out what they're going to do with the property tax situation. I have 30 seconds, okay. And I think that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
All right, this one is more specific to Marion County now. So, and we'll start with you, Jason, on this question. So, and the third question is: over the past 50 years, Marion County, and especially the city of Marion, has experienced significant economic decline. Once a statewide powerhouse of industry and wealth, Marion has now been greatly surpassed by the counties to our south. For years, Marion County entrusted Can Do with its economic development efforts, with very little to show for it. So if you're elected Marion County Commissioner, what is your plan to help Marion County with economic development?
We have to have a similar organization to Can Do. And it really bothers me how Can Do imploded or was destroyed. And not many people know about it, but it was all over a land deal, and then things got personal. And it's not the land deal you're thinking of related to the solar farm on Williamsport Road that has a lease agreement, and that's the kind of what the public knows as the original demise of Can Do. But it was more than that. It was deeper than that. It was over two grown men acting like toddlers. One wanted to purchase some wooded ground that Can Do owns, And Can-Do said, no, we want to sell this ground for economic development, not for a hunting paradise for this one individual. That one individual got very upset and led the mission to destroy Gus Comstock. We can have our arguments whether he was a good leader or not, but ousted Gus Comstock. And now for over a year, we have zero economic development and zero plan for any future economic development. And the city of Marion thought it would be wise to have an in-house government-ran economic development director. I did not vote for that. I don't think government should have any hands in economic development whatsoever. But here's where we are. They did the city, and it was supposed to be partially funded through the county. That position is vacant, and Marion County, Marion City has no economic development. So I would hope that before any of the four of us are sworn in January, that some sort of economic development plan is created. We cannot go 2 full years without economic development because that's the engine that drives our economy. If you're not bringing in industries, bringing in manufacturers, or creating jobs, your revenue stream is going to continually shrink.
Yes, economic development is big to keep Marion going. I was a former member of the Can-Do board, and I thought the first few years Gus did a great job. If some of you might not know, he came from Delaware when they were in their height of their expansion down there and did a lot of great things. But now we have an office manager is all we have for Can-Do right now, and I know they went through this a little bit back 10 years, 12 years ago, and they didn't have an economic development person. They just had Denny in the office, and then they hired Gus, and things started moving, and he did some great things, and but we need to have economic development, and the city and the county and all the Marion County needs to work together. You know, it took me a long time to convince everybody that the city of Marion is there, but it is part of Marion County. It's not one just thing in the center of the county, and we all need to work together to come up with a plan for economic development. The funding of it is a real tricky part. We used to get from the county and the city, and then businesses would contribute to it, but the businesses faded away, and it left it to the city and the county to fund it, and neither one of their budgets can afford to do that at this present time, and so we need to come up with a better plan, and we need to all sit down at a table, as we did when we consolidated the 911 dispatch center in Marion County, and come up with a plan, and it'll make it work, and have economic development for Marion County.
Tim?
Okay. Would you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, if you're elected Marion County Commissioner, what is your plan to help Marion County with economic development?
Okay, I think Marion County right now has an area that can grow, an industrial area, and out of Kellogg Park, and is it Parkway or Park? I'm not sure. Parkway? Yeah, Kellogg Parkway. But anyway, that's set up with all the infrastructure and everything needed to bring in manufacturing and things like that. Clarendon Township, where I'm at, we have rezoned 224 acres to industrial. What we are missing there is infrastructure. So we can get the electric, the gas, the internet, and all that, but we don't have sanitary sewer. So getting that going would really make that area a lot more attractive to bring businesses in. I think if you look at Marion County, Marion City was highly industrialized. And as you look back through the years of Marion Power, Shovel's gone, Bronze-Tel, a lot of these companies, Quakeros, there's just company after company after company, they're gone. But now we're in more of a high tech. And I think out at Tri-Rivers, they have a robotics program that's second to none. They have a nursing program that's really going well. I just think the investment in infrastructure, and I think how that would be done would be merging private investment with public investment. And I think if you look at Hancock County to the north of us, Findlay, they set up a small commission of people that were doers and shakers, I would call them, and had money. And they put together a program to develop Hancock County and Findlay. And they are really doing well. But I think if we could merge public and private monies and maybe get these infrastructures built and then make it look good to some of these tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 companies that want to find places for warehousing, light manufacturing. We have it, we just need to make it just a little bit more attractive. So I have 30 cents, thank you. So I guess that's my answer. I think if we could merge public and private monies and work that out, I think we'd make it a lot more attractive.
Christy?
I think our issue with economic development really stems from not having good planning. One of the things that we are very much lacking in Marion County is a comprehensive plan as to which direction we want to go. I've spoken to many branches within our county and let you know many of our groups that are under the county commissioners, they like to be called branches, not departments. So with that, I've been speaking to many of these branches to understand how we are operating. And I've spoken with our Chamber of Commerce. They've tried to reach out to the commissioners. They've tried to reach out to the townships. They've tried to reach out to the cities to bring everybody together to come up with ideas on how we can move Marion forward with economic development. I'd really like to see, and one of their ideas as well was to revamp Can-Do. I think we have the plan, we have the structure within Can-Do. It just needs to be revitalized. They have the know-how. Right now they have money up until the end of June to operate. And they have the know-how by connecting with those people outside of Marion County to figure out what we have available. We have shovel-ready sites right now that we are not promoting. Tim spoke about having sewer. There's a project out on 98 with the old Verizon building. There was actually money behind that to bring sewer to that area, and then had a investor who was interested in taking over the property. It was never moved forward. And so there's got to be reasons behind why we do not jump on these projects when we have opportunities. And I believe Can-Do might be that venue that we need to put our money behind that to get them out into the public. And they have the means, they have the ability to do it. And we need to hire a new director for this. Right now, we are depending on regional planning. And regional planning has so much to do right now. Their director right now has actually taken on the director role as the board chair, and there's no time for her to do that. We need to branch out and look at what possibilities we have. Get those shovel-ready sites ready to go, and that would encourage people to come within our community. We've got to bring resources to Marion. We cannot handle living within our means right now. We are not living within our means. We have more. Our budget does not allow for us to expand, and we need to bring outside resources with economic development, or our budget's just not gonna last. It's coming quick, and we've got to manage it.
Thank you. The fourth question, Ken, you'll start the answers, and we'll cycle through in the same order then. So here's the setup. Vivek Ramaswamy, your party's endorsed candidate for governor, has envisioned Ohio as the Midwest's Silicon Valley. An inevitable result of this vision will be the continued proliferation of resource-draining data centers being built throughout the state. Backed by big money and special interests, these data centers employ very few people, yet consume a lot of water and electricity, largely resulting in decreased aquifers, polluted waterways, and higher rates for residential consumers. Typically, these companies are also given sweetheart deals in the form of tax abatements, etc. So here's the question. If elected Marion County Commissioner, would you support the construction of data centers in our county? And if so, would there be any conditions on their construction? But if not, would you advocate for a moratorium on their construction?
Yes, I don't believe in those, and I don't, I've said in my other statements, I don't believe in solar, but farms either. It takes a lot of good farm ground, and this would do the same, and we don't have enough water here to take care of this, and a lot of people don't realize, and if you see construction out there, the solar, big 900-acre solar farm, all that electricity is going to East Coast, so they're building, continually building new towers to go that way, and I think the same thing could happen there. We'd be paying the price for all these new facilities, and there'd be a lot of good jobs built them, but after that, there's not many economic development for jobs, sustained jobs here for Marion County. The data centers to me are a large drain. I think here again we're going from windmills and we go to solar farms and then we go to these data centers and it's just a constant drain. So as far as having a moratorium on them, if the technology would change, I'm not saying there isn't a need. I just believe that because we are pretty rich in the resources that they consume, that's why they want to build so many of them here. And to do the tax abatements, and if our energy costs go up because of these, who could support that? I just can't see it myself. There possibly could be technology in the future where it's going to be even nuclear, something like that. If they could make something like that, I believe the technology is probably there. I would consider it, but I think abatements on this stuff is definitely not the way to go. They consume resources, and they take resources such as fire protection and things like that. So yeah, I would have to disagree with it right now. I just don't think it's the right time for them here.
I believe that we're 5th or 6th in the nation for data centers in Ohio right now, and that might give you an idea that those that are bringing the data centers here are looking at us as though we're not ready. The Ohio Township Association actually put out, had a recent statement that they talked about data centers to where they are recommending at least a 9-month moratorium so that we can get ready with our zoning. And that makes a lot of sense. Waldo Township has just done that. So they enacted that, had a resolution to create a moratorium. And that gives the communities time to be able to get ready. So if you've got a data center, you have someone that's come in and purchased land, they can basically do what they want if your zoning is not in place. So this gives us time to get ready. I think most of our townships need to do this, and it's definitely recommended. Something else that was really interesting out of that was that data centers, when you oppose them, they encourage you to fight them. But what they do is they take the fight to the federal level. And what happens within the insurance that is covers our townships and our local government, our insurance does not cover at the federal level. So data center companies know this, and that's why they take it and they say it's not constitutional to be able to oppose a data center. So this was from the Ohio Township Trustees Association. They have great information. I encourage anyone to go and look for this. But I also will be speaking to our townships and our villages to let them know that this is what's out there right now. And I just believe that data centers are a drain to our community unless we're ready for them.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with the other three candidates that they are a drain on our community. But my position is I don't even like data centers. Why do we need data centers? What are they collecting? They're collecting data on us. And who is the they? Where is this going to? Or how is it going to be used against us? That's my problem with it. And I will firmly oppose any tax abatements, tips, or any sweetheart deals for any of these data centers that would want to come into Marion.
All right, thank you. The fifth and final question. We're back to you, Tim. You'll start off. Here's the scenario. The Marion County Commissioners recently approved a 2026 annual budget that features a deficit of $4.5 million. Between 2021 and 2024, the county hired an additional 70 full-time employees and dramatically increased spending primarily on salaries and benefits, despite a decline in population. Faced with a similar financial challenge back in 2011 to include a budget deficit of $1.45 million, the county pursued a 0.5% increase to the county sales tax rate. After doing battle with citizens, repeal referendums, and ballot defeats, the increase was eventually enacted by the commissioners in 2013. Marion County's gross sales tax rate is currently 7.25%. So here's the question. Well, two questions. If elected Marion County Commissioner, how do you plan to address the budget deficit? And specifically, will you pursue financially conservative policies to include cuts to spending and layoffs, or will you seek to preserve the status quo and seek a bailout via taxpayers?
Okay, I think first of all, with any budget, when you look at a budget, you have to see where your major outlay is. Well, anybody that knows anything about business, probably 80% of your outlay of income goes with payroll and benefits. So people want services, and these services are going to have to be rendered by somebody, but I haven't seen what the reason was for hiring these additional people. I don't know if there was a mandate, they had to have more people, whatever, I don't know. I haven't looked into that yet. But I think what you would have to do is go to each elected official in the departments that they run, and you would have to look at how they spend their monies. And being a county commissioner, I don't believe you micromanage, because these people are elected to do jobs, but I believe you have to work with them and say, hey, where are we going to make cuts? And I think anybody is going to look at it and say, well, the quickest way to cut your budget is going to be with personnel. That's the quickest way to do it. I'm not saying that's going to be the ultimatum. I'm just saying that's probably one of the quickest ways to cut the budget back down. There again, I wouldn't micromanage, but I think you would have to go to each head of each department and find out how the money's being spent, where it's going, what are the personnel that are essential. And pare the thing back. I know some years ago, I had talked with the county commissioners about a rollback in the sales and use taxes. And the sales tax that the county's allowed to to charge is 1.5%. That's on the 5.75% that's the state charges. So the county can use any amount of that. They can use none of it. They can use 0.25%. They can use 1%, up to 1.5%. But anyway, I believe once you get the budget around and get it where everything's working and functioning the way it should, then I would like to see a rollback of at least 0.25% on the sales tax and keep it back for emergency funding. If you need it, you can tap into it. But once again, you have to balance that budget. So I would rely on the elected officials in the different departments and also the heads of the department to do such. Thank you.
Well, the way I see this job as Marion County Commissioner is a very large job interview. And so what I've been doing to make sure that I'm well educated on this issue of the budget is I've gone to all these branches under county government. I've met with the auditor's office, I've met with the dog pound, I've met with the sheriff's department, I've met with all 3 commissioners, I've met with municipal court. I've met with all of these branches to better understand how their budgets are, how they operate with their budgets. I've got a lot of information that we have some great employees. We've got some great team members working under the county. They are very cognizant of the fact that the budget is a huge issue. Right now, what's very surprising is that we've had a deficit for many years that no one's talked about. It's been since 2022, we've been in a deficit, and what's happened is that the ARPA funds that were given to us have been used to fill that deficit over these past years. What I don't see is a plan for what we're doing now. It's now urgent, and now everybody's talking about it, but this has been happening for many years. And that extra money that was sitting there has just been supplementing what was to come. I believe the best way to tackle this is to form a task force, and that is what I would plan to do, and that is to bring people in to sit down at the table and say, how do we tackle this? This means financial planners from outside of government. This means people that have experience with county budgets. A budget is just a working document. This is something that I've dealt with for many years through business, and it's not something that it's fluid. We have to be able to adjust this budget in order to balance it, but we can't do it without more resources. So it's either make cuts, bring in resources, but that has to be done through talking. It has to be done through collaborating. It has to be done through our planning to figure out what our next steps are. We can't just across the board say we're cutting everything. It makes no sense, and it means that we need to put some brains together to figure out how to make this operate better, because we cannot go on now. It's urgent, and our county absolutely is depending on us as county commissioners to do something about it. We have county commissioners in place right now, and I believe they are good people. They are trying to do what they can, but moving forward is not a priority right now, and I don't see that. I definitely will work hard to plan and come up with a future budget that we can all operate within.
Could you repeat? There was a two-part question.
So if elected Marion County Commissioner, how do you plan to address the budget deficit? And then the second part was just more specific. Would it be fiscally conservative policies, or would it be increased taxes?
Okay, well, first of all, if I am lucky enough to become your county commissioner, I do not need on-the-job training. I've served on council for 14 years, and I'm sure many of you are aware that the city finances are not the greatest right now. So I've been through the trauma of fighting and struggling to solve the budget concerns. My plan would be simple. I know requesting a zero-based budget is a lot of work, and there will be a lot of pushback, but the days of copying and pasting from a previous year to the next year and adding an annual increase, those days have got to stop. But if I cannot get people on board with the zero-based budget. I myself, as commissioner, will structure my questions and do a zero-based review over my 4-year term. And I will break up the entire budget over those 4 years and look at each department and have each department justify their needs and explain their wants. And that's how we get this budget back in line, and all the outliers will show their heads when you ask these zero-based, targeted, review-based or type questions. And to me, that sounds simple. I think it can be achieved, and that's what I would do.
This is a tough one. I've been there, done that. 2011, I came into the commissioner's office. We were in a big deficit then, and the previous year they'd cut some, but we had to start with a 15% cut of the budget. Josh Daniels was a commissioner before me. He said, Kenny better come and work on this budget. So he left me come in October, November, and I started working on the budget soon after I was elected. And yes, we cut 15% in the commissioner's office. We cut our administrator, which wasn't a very pleasant thing to do. At that time, I was chairman in 2012, and we couldn't afford to keep her anymore. And it was a lady, it was African American. The prosecutor said, Kenny, you're on your own. He didn't want to touch this one, so I had to explain to her why we were doing it. It was about an $80,000 a year job with benefits, and we cut that. And yes, I'm not proud. We did increase the sales tax, and then it was a referendum to cut them back, and then we put them back on. But I'm also proud that we had a balanced budget at that time, and we did not borrow any money during my 12 years there. And look at the things that were accomplished, and we still had a positive budget. When I started, they had $200 in capital improvements. When I left, we bought I call it the White House down there. We put all new roofs on all the county buildings, and we did not borrow one dime. We had enough from our increase in sales tax. We put 40% into capital improvement, and the other 60% went into general fund. And a lot of people don't understand that the judges and part of the prosecutors, they can mandate their budget. So you do 3 things as a commissioner. Well, as a county, you arrest them, you incarcerate them, and you try them. Those are your big 3 things. And the other thing, when we increased the sales tax, I thought it was necessary because we didn't have enough deputies on the road, and the safety of the citizens of Marion County were my top priority, along with balancing a budget. So I continue to tell all the departments, what do you need, not what you want. That was my big thing, to get them to balance their budgets.
Well, thank you, candidates. And at this point, I'm going to pass the mic. What's that?
Closing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is audience, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I was right that time.
All right. Question for,
Cody,
yes.
time on this. Wait, it's the, I can't remember this. 3 minutes.
Would any of the candidates accept a salary decrease?
Is this free for all answer?
Yeah, and we'll start, who left off starting last time? Kenny?
Tim was the last one to
Tim was the last
Tim was the last one, so Christie, we'll start with you. And if you look at your program, so you can see what this position will pay in 2027 when one of these folks takes office. And then the state of Ohio, this is the state of Ohio that's dictating this, not Marion County. They're getting some pretty hefty pay increases, a little bit more than what the private sector gets for 2028, 2029. So again, the question is, would any of the candidates accept a salary decrease?
I think this position's been looked at as a part-time position for many years. Actually, when I was considering running for the office, and I met with several people within the community before I made the decision to run, and every single one of them said, well, you're gonna stay with your current job and this is a part-time job. I don't see this as a part-time job. I will be leaving my current position if elected and will be serving for absolutely full-time. I believe if you're not needed within some aspect of this role of county commissioner in the office or something like that, you need to be advocating in the community. This is a full-time job. You need to be at the State House, you need to be everywhere to make sure that you are acting on behalf of your neighbors. This is not something that is an individual role. This is you are acting as a neighbor, and I believe that this role does deserve a salary that is equal to a full-time position. So I'm not willing to take a decrease in salary because I will be working hard in order to make sure that I'm advocating for our community. And I think that a salary equal to what is being offered is justified.
My turn?
You, sir.
So honestly, and we are in church, so I'm not lying, I do not know what the commissioner's salary is. And with that said, I served on 14 years, and when I first became a councilman, I believe my salary was $5,000. We increased it to $7,500, and when I left, I made $9,000. And it was considered a part-time job, and I did a lot of stuff after hours. Well, we didn't have any set hours, but constantly. The third floor they kept me busy with phone calls and needs of assistance. So whatever the salary is, I was fine with $9,000. If the commissioners want to cut it for the incoming year, would be 27. If they cut it, I'll accept whatever they reduce it.
When we had to do the 15% cut in the budget, I said, well, everybody else is taking a cut, so I put $200 of every pay into a fund, which I found out later that it was illegal to do that. And so the state auditor found out about it, and he told Joanne, he said, Kenny can't do this. So at that time, I only had a little over $1,000 in there, and the park board didn't have enough money for an audit. So I gave my money that was in that fund to the park board to do their audit. So, and I think most people that know me, I was a full-time commissioner. There was no doubt about it. I loved the job. I enjoyed going to work every day. I didn't call it work. And so I don't know what the salary is now, but like I said, and I just want to say one more thing about one other thing that I shouldn't say this in church, but I was called the tight-ass commissioner when I was there. And people would bring things to me before they would talk to me, and then I would talk to the other commissioners about it. I think there's one gentleman in here in the room that knows all about that, and then I would have to talk to each one of them individually to get their blessing on some things, not financially, but other things. And that was my career as a commissioner, and I was one of the commissioners in there now. He said, Kenny, these county people, they loved you when you were in here, but I just got along with everybody, and it was just a joy to do. So I'd take a cut and pay if I could, but you can't, so that's the rest of the story. Okay, I have spent about 29 years of my life in public service, and at 22 years of age, I started my own business, and I am still there today doing what I do. But anyway, when I started out with the Village of Caledonia, we made $10 for a meeting, and smoke-filled room. Everybody wanted to get out of there and go to the Old Tangy Tavern and have a beer, and so that's what we made. Then I became zoning inspector for the village. I made $5 for a permit. But I think when you're doing public service, you don't think about that. When I became a trustee for Clarendon Township, and I do have a check here and a check stub, this position pays me $1,194.50 a month. Okay? So by the time they take all my taxes out, what do I end up with? $967.63. So, becoming county commissioner is definitely a full-time job. I talked with Kerr Murray when he was running, and I don't know if you remember this, Kerr. We had this conversation, and I said, Kerr, this job is a full-time job. If you're promoting Marion County the way it should be promoted, you are a full-time employee. So, that's the way I would take it. To go back to what I talked about before, if you're going to cut a budget, and if we're going to ask for a 10% or a 15% or a 12% or an 8%, you lead by example. When I coached football for 11 years, you lead by example. I couldn't ask somebody else to take a cut, and I'm not going to take a cut. So yes, I would take a cut in pay to do that county commissioner job and still do it full time, because it is a full-time job. Thank you.
All right, I'm trying to go through these questions here. We've got a theme with a few of them, and it's quite an appropriate theme when you think about it. It's the budget, deficit, and spending. And you don't want to get me started on spending by government. But anyway, these folks kind of concur. They all kind of, like I said, go to the same thing. So to all candidates, how do you intend to balance the county budget? What is your plan to cut wasteful spending of taxpayer dollars? Are you willing to hold elected officials accountable? How do you plan on balancing the budget? See, I told you, great minds think alike here, I guess. So are you opposed to a DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, formerly ran by Elon Musk, apparently, for Marion County? So I guess just elaborate a little bit more. People are concerned about the situation with overspending by county government and what you guys are going to do to tackle that. And I personally will point out that I believe the county is currently maxed out on the sales tax. So there's really not a whole lot that you can do on that end of things to increase revenues, even if you wanted to. So, go ahead.
I believe it's my, so the base question is a Doge-like?
That was an addition on one of the questions, but all three of these questions concern what specifically your plan is on balancing the budget. Now, we had a question that was asked by the moderator, but I think they want a little bit more detail, maybe, as far as what your plan is to cut wasteful spending, to balance the budget. And then one of them said, would you support a Marion County government efficiency commission or office or something like that?
Well, as a good Republican, I don't think we need to create another branch of government to review government. So I don't, but I guess I can give some examples of my experience and what I've done. The first question that was, how would I attack the county's budget and the deficit? I said I would do a zero-based review. If I couldn't get that bought in with the rest of the commissioners, I would do it myself. But some have said that, and it's true, that other elected offices have the right to their own budgets, and judges can order whatever they want. That's true to a point. A few years ago, the municipal court submitted a budget that they thought was reasonable and necessary. The city council and the mayor did not think it was reasonable nor necessary. There was a line item veto. Myself, the mayor, and the law director took it to the Supreme Court through mediation, and we're not allowed, through the mediation, we cannot talk about the specifics that happened, but the outcome was good for both sides. And if the county courts are submitting budgets that are unreasonable and not necessary, they have to prove that first. The framework is in ORC 307.1. That's what we took Judge Ballinger to the Supreme Court over. And if they cannot prove that their budget is reasonable or necessary, then a higher court will say, go back, meet it through mediation, and bring it within acceptable, reasonable, and necessary terms. And I've done that, and I would bring that experience with me to the Office of County Commissioner.
Once again, balancing the budget, it's a challenge. It'll be a big challenge. They have some deficits. I've had some people call me in this past year asking what I do with the budget, but I'm not in office at that time, but I give my advice what I would do if I was there. But we need to continue to, like I said earlier, what are your needs, not your wants? I think there's only been, Jason brought up about Judge Ballinger, there's only been one case in the state of Ohio that the commissioners have won over the last 25 years that reduced a judge's budget. But I think now we have judges that are very considerate of the budget and are able to work with them, and that's one thing. But I put a high priority on safety, and that is the sheriff's department, and I know their budget's increasing, but people don't realize to keep good people, you have to pay them well, and I think from our sheriff right on down, we have good people, and they do a great job, and I feel safe in Marion County. When we had 2 cars on the road, now we have 4 every evening, and some of the villages pay the sheriff to have patrol in their cities, to have safer villages and Prospect and so forth, and I just feel that I'd have to get a deeper dive into the budget as it's changed in the last 4 years. When I started, we had $11 million budget, and I think someone said tonight it's $32 million now. There's something going on, and we need to pull back the reins a little bit on some places. So I just have to get a deeper dive into the budget and see where the new expenses have came since 4 years ago. Thank you. Okay, once again on the budget, when I was village councilman for the Village of Caledonia, we had no money. So we had to get real creative with the funding that we had to make ends meet. So I understand how that works, and we even had a Marshall street superintendent at that time that we were trying to finance and fund. Moving on to the township, we have a budget committee hearing every year, and we're very fortunate in Clarendon Township and the other 2 trustees that I've worked with over the years that we get in trouble for not spending enough money. So we get threatened that they're gonna take our money away if we don't start spending it. So, that's kind of a good problem to have, but still, we're still pretty tight with our money. So, when it comes to the county commissioner, having a Doge, I think that would be our job, 3 county commissioners, to go in and look at each one of these departments and work with them and see where we can make cuts. And here again, to me, it's simple math. You cannot spend more than you take in. That, I realize that the federal government does it, they can print money. We can't. So the state of Ohio has to have a balanced budget. I believe Marion County should have a balanced budget. And I think it's just, we're just gonna have to jump into the budget and dissect it, see what's essential, what's not, and get this ship riding again. And like I said, the income that we have from the sales tax, which is 1.5%, I would like to see 1/4 of that percent taken off, rolled back, put back for a rainy day fund. So when you get into a situation where you need funding and monies, that's the place where you go back and enact that and put that back on. So it's all doable, but I think whoever gets the job, that is going to be part of your full-time job and a major part of your full-time job. And I'm up to it. I just need to get elected. Thank you.
I think one of the parts that we haven't really discussed about our budget is looking for outside funds. And one of those is looking for grants. Just as an example, the county commissioners have now employed a full-time grant writer, but that grant writer is only considered to be a pilot program for law enforcement. I've been a part of writing grants for many years now. The project playground that was demolished in McKinley Park, it had to be demolished because of the condition, but there were no plans for what was to happen after that. I was a part of creating a nonprofit called the Marion Pep Club, and with that organization, I personally wrote grants that totaled $400,000 to be able to be used for that playground, and it was a part of our group of writing another $450,000 worth of grants. And so that project of replacing Project Playground, which is now Marion Rotary Centennial Playground, was all done through grants and through personal donations. I do believe that we have the ability to write grants for the county. It's not being done right now. We just renovated the county county courthouse building, and none of those funds were used or were actually requested for preservation grants. So it was all out of basically our budget. So with that, I would have loved to have seen more grants be looked at for that to be done. I spoke with the county engineer, and they actually write grants for themselves, and they're very self-sustaining by their grant writing abilities. I believe that one of the best things we could do with our grant writer, or with myself having that insight, is to pay for our salaries to be able to make sure that that's something that's taken care of. Grant writers are to pay for themselves, and so I believe that's something that we can do. But those grants are out there. They are to be, and especially for municipalities and counties. There's so much out there right now, and if we're not utilizing that, I think it's it's just not reasonable to not go after them. And I do believe part of this will be with the task force that I will create, and definitely have outside input and collaborative input to make sure that we can tackle this budget deficit head on. It's definitely at the forefront of everybody's minds right now, and I, as the county commissioner, will tackle this as one of my #1 goals. Thank you.
I found another budget question, if you want. Let's just do a show of hands for this one. Will that work? It says, can you describe a specific time you managed a budget exceeding $10 million? and how did that experience prepare you to identify and fix critical gaps in a much smaller, lean budget where every dollar is vital? So, since we've did they cover your question sufficiently?
A lot of it, yeah.
Okay. Do you wanna?
There's bullet points on managing budgets. I didn't hear the specific bullet points that you do to manage a budget or to get a budget in line.
Yeah, if you manage large budgets, how would you align spending or put in place changes? If you manage small budgets, how would you align spending or put in place changes? Please give me your solutions that would fit those scenarios, short-term, long-term.
Seal, I'll interject for a minute.
Yeah.
They're primarily the same, but on a large budget, there's a couple things you do that you don't do on a small budget. So.
Did you guys hear that? Go ahead.
On large budgets, small budgets, they're primarily the same, but there's a couple bullet points, a couple things you do on a large budget to bring things back into line. So, you get my question? No? I think I'll word this. Okay, if you got a large budget and you're out of whack, there's a couple things you can do to get things back into line. Or if you have smaller budgets, you can do the same thing on a large budget, but cutting heads is one thing. The public sector is fat, the private sector is not. So you have to cut, and you gotta get things back in line. And I've had businesses, and I have never been in a deficit. When I worked the corporate world, I was in the black every year. But you gotta move stuff around. You gotta make cuts, you gotta make tough decisions. So you gotta have a backbone. Are you willing to make tough decisions? Because.
Who do you want to answer?
All four of you.
Yeah. Are we working with appropriations?
Yeah.
So if we're working with appropriations, the only thing you can do there is cut back on those appropriations. And that depends on what department you're dealing with. So I think once again, you go to the source. Oh, I'm sorry. Once again, you go to the source, and then, you know, in the public sector, you would have to go to the source of that appropriation and then say, here, you know, here's where we want to end up or where we want to be. So then that appropriation would have to get adjusted. And then you got to watch your funding too with appropriations, because you can move some in and out, and it depends on general fund or where you put them, if you can put them back. So that would be my answer on that. I hope that's.
Yeah, you nailed it.
We good?
One thing that's very different with county government is that much of the budget is mandated by the Ohio Revised Code. So there are so many positions right now that are geared towards what big government is saying has to be done. So definitely getting back to basics, going to each of the branches and looking at those and saying, getting specific, getting hardcore information. I think that definitely it can be done. I think there is some, there's definite overspending, but you've got to figure out where it is and how to tackle it. That is a fact-finding mission right now, and that's something I'm willing to do. And much of the branches of the government are, that are under the county government are willing to work with each other. They talk to each other. They support each other. They try and figure out solutions behind the scenes. So that's where we need some new eyes, new fresh eyes to get some ideas back in to where we say, okay, let's take a fresh look at this and not just what we've always done.
So your question takes me back to 2008, 2010 during the Great Recession. And what the city did we set a target that we needed to be at, a dollar amount that we need to be at. And with municipal financing and same with the county, certain dollars have to be spent on what they're voted in for. Like the city's income tax, we have a 0.25% that's for safety, and it has to be spent for that. So it's not clearly cut and dry that every department can get the same cut and realize so we can achieve our goal. But what we did, we worked with the unions, and this target that we had, we worked with the unions, and they came with a slew of different ideas, and instead of laying off a bunch of people to meet the targets, some unions took concessions and they worked a shorter work week. If you remember, City Hall was closed on Fridays during the Great Recession, and that's how we kept staff and kept services. Now, some unions wanted to live and die by the contract. The police department, they're one of the largest budgets within the city of Marion. They were happy with it sounds disgusting, but eating their young. And so we laid off a whole bunch of police officers because they wanted to go by that contract. But like I said, we had a target. And the fire department did great things. They gave up vacation time and sick leave time just so they could keep a minimum staff. And to me, that's what true service is. They gave their own dollars to keep fellow firefighters on duty. And is that approach happening now? Absolutely not. And that's what we should do. We should work with all the departments. I believe there's union departments within the county, and this work can be done. We just have to set that target we want to be at and work to get there.
Yeah, I like I said, I've been through that before, and we have two former sheriff deputies here that during our cutbacks, the sheriff deputies did not take a raise for several years. We did not buy new cruisers, and then it hit you all at once. But we made it up to them a little bit once we got back on our feet, and they got a little extra pay that 1 year once we got everything back in line. But we need to continue the safety forces, and that's one of my big things. And yeah, the county went to a 4-day week, and I think some of them still on a 4-day week. The way I go in to see people and they're not there, they say, well, this is not the day I'm in the office. I don't know. But I had the same thing when I was school board. We had to cut $300,000 per year over a 5-year period, and it added up to whatever it multiplied over the years. But we need to continue to, and Christy brought up a good point, we need to just work with each department and kind of quarterly check their budget, see what they're spending their money on, and it'll all work out. They're all good people that work at the county, and a lot of people don't realize she mentioned the engineers, the commissioners give them no money. We haven't for several years. They haven't, unless they have in the last 4, but that's all from your gas tax. So Brad's on his own, and he does do a great job with grants. They got some good people in there, but yes, and there's more ways to generate revenue for the county, and I work tirelessly to get the budget back in line. And my old saying is, your needs, not your wants. So that's what I base all the budget on.
All right, next question here might have been more appropriate for the forum that we held for the state reps of the 86th district, but you all have quite a few years of government experience up here on the stage, so maybe you can provide some insight. Question reads, for over 50 years, we have been told, vote in the lottery, vote in the casinos, vote in the racetracks, and that money will be used to fund schools, fire, and police. What is happening with the money? What would you do to see that this money is going to schools, fire, and police? Go right ahead, Dan.
First of all, with the lottery, I believe that was brought in the 1970s. That was going to be the end-all, save-all for the public schools. I believe at one point, maybe 25, 30 years into it, I looked at River Valley local schools, and I think they had received about $60,000 over that period of time. So what a windfall. So that's a joke. With the casinos, if they wanted to build a casino in our backyard, I believe, I don't know what the Ohio Commission is on gaming or whatever it's called, but they can come in and they actually don't have to adhere to our zoning, our local zoning stuff. So it's really, you know, they can come in and make all this money, and I'm sure there's somebody making a lot of money. But if you look at the budget of the Ohio Lottery Commission, I believe that they're way up in the 80-some percentile of you know what they make is they have to pay out to the people that work there to payroll and benefits. So I might be a little off on that, but I'm so opposed to those type of things that say that that's going to cure all the problems. It really isn't. So that's just my opinion on this.
I agree wholeheartedly with what Tim said. I think that it's been kind of like a bait and switch for us, where they've said, yes, this is going to be what we need, and it's going to solve problems, and our schools are going to be well funded, and I don't think that it's come to fruition. So I don't have a lot of confidence in that. I don't see that casinos and lottery are going to be our saviors. I think we need to be smart as we're moving forward and elect those at the State House that are going to be our voice, and hold their feet to the fire just like you would ours as new commissioners. So I just don't believe that lottery and casinos are what are going to save us. So I agree with what Tim said.
I might as well agree with Mrs. Neff and Mr. Mooney.
You've done that before.
Yes, and personally, I don't gamble, and if I really want to know my personal thoughts, I think gambling destroys a family, and that's something that we're all suffering from right now. And I'm in a church, so I'm not going to preach, and I'm not going to ask for an offering, but I truly believe that if we fell for a bait and switch, then shame on us.
They developed the lottery, and the schools were going to get a certain percentage of their profit. That's everybody thought, well, their profit would be big. Well, they spend more than they're worse than the county. They spend more than they take in, I think, and the profit is not too good, and the schools only get a certain percentage of it. It's not good, and I think the racehorse people are another one that they make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money too. They brought back harness racing, and that's about similar with the casinos and the lottery. There's somebody else making money besides the common Joe like you and I. So we all thought it was going to be the heartbeat of the schools, and they wouldn't have to pay more real estate taxes or anything, but it didn't work. It comes from the state, just like solar farms. They pushed that all back onto the commissioners, and they made the commissioners the bad boys.
All right, I'm going to combine these two because I think they kind of both deal with economic development and the result of not having economic development. And I'm going to add to it a little commentary of my own. How many of you have driven down 95, so in the township, not in the city, or down Delaware Avenue? Again, that part's in the township. and you see all these strip malls, and you see all these formerly diverse businesses, and now what are they? They're gambling halls, they're vape shops, smoke shops, pipe shops. I mean, we have to be per capita one of the highest concentration of those types of businesses. And that's not something that we should be proud of, in my opinion. Anybody else out here? I mean, if we had one of those proprietors, I'm not trying to insult your business, but I'm going to say again, like, from an economic development standpoint or a tax policy, because you have to look at that historically. If you're maxed out on your sales taxes, if your property tax burden is high, what's going to happen to business? What's going to happen to economic development? They're not going to be able to make a profit, so they don't exist. So then you're left with businesses like vape shops that may have a profit margin of 5% and they can pay a little bit more in taxes. But these two audience questions: what is your vision of the future of the old Tecumseh site that's in the city of Marion, but still? And what would need to be done to bring an Aldi's or other grocery store to that site? Again, city of Marion, there's a food desert. There is a legitimate food desert. A city of just under 35,000 people, and now once Save-A-Lot goes out of business, you're going to have 2 supermarkets located within the city limits. It's not good. And then the other question is, how will you address blighted properties? Most are owned by out-of-state interests, and squatters occupy these properties illegally. And I don't know if that's more talking about residential houses in the city of Marion, but if you have good economic development and you have policies that are attractive to business and enable them to make a profit, you don't have these problems. So, go ahead.
Okay, so developing the old Tecumseh site for a grocery store, if there's a grocery store on that site, I will not shop there. That cannot be clean at all. So, someone else should go there. And the other question was, what do we do with slum and blight?
Slum and blight.
Yeah, so I would support and help. We have a land bank, and that's the mission of the land bank. Support them in any way I can. They're doing a good job now. And if there's any other avenues similar to a land bank, I would explore those as well.
Maybe we can put a vape shop.
I don't know if you can get
A
high.
vape supermarket.
I guess I agree there. That would be a good place, but there is a food desert in the city of Marion, the western part, and up in the northern part. There's just not much place for people to do shopping for groceries. If they don't have transportation, they can't get there either. It's just we've got the Dollar Generals and pushed all the locals out of the business, I guess, and that's one place, but their prices are probably higher than the Aldi's and the Kroger's and so forth. But the other part of that was the question was, please.
Blighted properties.
Yeah, I was on that board for several years, and we took down a lot of properties, improved and gave properties to Christie's organization to build houses on, but it takes money to tear those houses down, and then people haven't paid their taxes. You can take that property, but if there's some of these blighted houses, people have kept up on their taxes just to spite everybody, and you can't touch them. Once they pay their taxes, you can't tear their house down just because it's a dump. I guess that's not a very good word to say, but it's a blighted property, but you can't tear it down because they've been paying their taxes. There's some of them right there close to downtown Marion, they're that way. There's 3 or 4 of them there. I know we tried to get but they pay their taxes, so you can't get them to clean up that part of town, so, that's unfortunate, but it does take money to tear those houses down, about 11 to 15,000, depends on what's in the houses, and, you gotta fill in the basements and so forth, and it costs a lot of money, and then what do you do with the properties, you know? You got properties, you gotta sell them, nobody wants to buy them in the areas that some of them are.
You were talking about, Tecumseh Products, the old building, that's what.
That's the property in question on the card, yes.
Okay, was that a brownfield, was that a cleanup, was that a toxic?
It was an EPA disaster.
Yeah.
EPA disaster. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to make some kind of a comment on that because I don't know where they're at as far as the EPA rules and regulations on that. But you know, to put a grocery store somewhere, I mean, I think the only thing you could do there would be you would have to find somebody willing to invest, you know, in an area of Marion where you don't have this issue, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to find somebody that's willing to invest that kind of money, what it would take. And, you know, rehabbing old properties or old buildings is very expensive. It's probably cheaper to build new. So I think that's problematic. The blighted properties, you know, I sit on the Regional Planning Commission and Land Bank is part of that. The Land Bank has done a wonderful job. Rich has done a good job trying to get these properties and clean these properties up. I know our township was a benefit of cleaning up a blighted property and then turn it back over to us. So that is one avenue, but I think anytime you have concentrated blight, like you have in the city of Marion, out in the county, it's kind of hit and miss. Here and there, you're going to have a blighted property. But I think in the city, you know, it's definitely a lot worse. So the blighted properties, how do you get somebody to invest in that? And I think, you know, if you can go out and set the example, if you can get somebody to invest, and I think we've seen that where it just kind of goes, if somebody fixes up a property or you tear down a blighted property, somebody fixes up the one next to it, then it has a tendency to kind of catch on and grow. I think everybody wants to live in a nice home. But blighted property is definitely a problem, and I think the real estate tax issue in the city of Marion has always been pretty high, and probably in the county too. And I know if you look at the amount of that money, the property tax money that goes to the schools, maybe we can do a little better job of collecting on some of that. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Me too.
It doesn't, because she has lived next door to a property for almost 10 years now. It has cost her money in fighting. It's cost her money in fighting against rodents. She spent over $1,000 in the last year because of a property right next door to them. This house was foreclosed on, it was boarded up. Squatters came in about 3 months later, broke all the windows out. It has no water, no electricity. She has called multiple times uptown to try to get this addressed.
Can I ask the address?
Yeah, 497 East Farming Street. It was owned by Jenny and Harvey Boner. They've died way back. And the guy that owns it, I guess, lives in California. I've got his name at home and his phone number. These people moved in and I called them more than everything was supposed to be tore down or condemned because it had no gas, no water, no electric. There were 6 of them living in there at one time.
They're using that address.
They had no toilet, no kitchen. I called downtown and told them at that time they didn't have a kitchen because they seen them stir it all out. They said, well, there was no ordinance on it.
That is a very common condition that basically happens within our county and our city. I will tell you, I know we talked about the Tecumseh, I think that's been discussed. I think that actually the land bank is looking at the Tecumseh property right now to see if there's any solution for that. But I'll tell you, I sit on a nuisance task force actually through municipal court where those type of properties are addressed. I'll take that address and I'll add it to that agenda. But what happens with right now, we're finding out, I also sit on it's called the Marion Housing Coalition, and we're focused on what we can do about those properties that are considered to be the zombie properties. They're the ones that are so far gone that we have no idea what to do with them. And as Ken spoke about, they pay their taxes sometimes. So there's different avenues that we are now exploring as far as to take back those properties. I've gone to actually property owners and negotiated with them to do a cash for keys option. And those properties have been turned over to the Marion County Land Bank. So there's different things that we can do now. Blight within our county has changed. There's now been more action-oriented avenues to figure out what we can do. And I definitely will take that property into consideration. We also have, I work very closely with the Marion County Land Bank, and that was actually established through the advice of Habitat for Humanity when it was created. And since that time has grown to where it's been so impactful. The properties now we're looking at having expedited foreclosures. So many of the properties that are going to the sheriff's sale, they're looking to group those, send those to the auditor's office, and then possibly funnel those back into the land bank in order to have something done with those properties. By doing this, by having an action plan for what's to come with some of these properties, it's only going to increase the values of the properties next to them. So the landscape in the neighborhood is looking to be changed, and actually there are many behind the scenes action groups that are taking place right now to really combat that issue. So we actually have developers right now that are building new within Marion County. They're understanding that they can get some tax abatements, but not full tax abatements. So it's encouraging that economic development for housing within our community. I do see some real changes that are happening. The junk car resolution that was done many years ago I sat on that group and we decided how it was going to be done. So I'm very action oriented, and that is where I see us happening with much of the what's happening right now with our housing.
All right, I'm going to try to move us along here real quick. Let's just keep these 30 seconds, a minute. And if I didn't get to your question, then I'm sure the candidates will be here for a few minutes, maybe longer, after tonight's event. Feel free to go up to them and ask them specifically. We just have too many, and we've got a schedule to keep here. People have bedtimes. All right, so let's say a minute or less. Will you go to bat for us farmers who are zoned commercial when a councilman has proposed to annex us into the city? Go ahead, Christy. So let's just keep it like a minute.
I'm absolutely going to go to bat for those people that are not interested in being annexed into the city. Just to do it, a blanket annexation is actually not able to be done. You have to, as property owners, request that. So to just say we're going to bring it into the city so that the city has more income, I think that's being irresponsible. So I'm not in support of annexing a large area into the city without more discussion.
Jeff is correct. Any annexation has to be brought forward by the property owner. The city cannot do a land grab. It goes against the ORC. So it has to be generated from the property owner.
Give you a good example of annexation. If any of you know where National Lime and Stone is, that we fought that for over a year and a half. You have to be an adjoining property to the city to be annexed. Well, there's a railroad track runs down through there, and we won for about 6 months to 9 months, and then some fancy lawyer said railroad track doesn't matter. So they annexed National Lime and Stone because it's next to the prison, and the prison is in the city. And so that's how annexation works, and I'm totally against it unless the property owner has a real need to be annexed into the city for some utilities or something of that nature. But I'm against annexation. The townships are getting smaller as they go because of spot zoning on Marks Road. It's like a mix match there of properties that are in the city, out of the city, and that road is half city, half county, and the county maintains the whole road and plows the snow, and it's not right.
I'm definitely for protecting the farmer on this issue. The annexation question, we had this happen in our township, and it was brought up a little earlier about an investor that wanted to invest, and there was a service line, sanitary sewer line, that was supposed to be run up to this property, and it was going to take on another one of the industrial areas. Anyway, there had to be an annexation agreement signed, and also the sanitary sewer line that was going to be run up through there was not big enough to service what the needs were going to be and for any future expansion. So yes, we in Clarendon Township have a land use plan. We have an area that was pre-zoned for industrial, but it's going to be farmed until any future growth. But yeah, I'm definitely for protecting the farmers. And I'll expand on that a little bit later.
All right. All right, last question. Again, if you had a question that didn't get asked, feel free to grab one of them after the event tonight here, or I'm sure you can send them a message on their social media. We gotta, unless you're Tiffany, you won't.
I didn't get the memo.
He didn't get my stuff. It's a joke.
I'm sorry, I'm not good at Facebook, people.
All right, so as we have all been made aware of, quote, insider trading with big government, I want to make sure we keep reins on our smaller government. As a concerned citizen, I want to observe and make sure these companies don't take preference or precedent over other qualified companies, as the town does do business with other businesses. And the question is, what companies are you affiliated with and or are permitted to speak or act on behalf of? So I guess the root of the question is whether or not you have any potential conflicts of interest or something that might benefit you from a business perspective as county commissioner.
I think it's my turn. I don't know so I have an LLC, it's Walker Investments. It's something that my wife and I created with our twin sons, and we have some properties in it. I own a lawn service. I farm with my dad. I don't know if there's any conflicts with that. But yeah, I don't know.
Ken?
I have no affiliation. I lost mine about 20 years ago with Whirlpool, so they let me go. They said they fired me 6 months after I left, so because we went to a new system. So all the guys said, "Good thing you retired when you did." But no, I don't have any affiliation, any business in Marion.
I'm a trustee in Clarendon Township, and I have an LLC, my business, but anytime that I do any business with the township, it's strictly to supply a part. Like I just sold the township a battery, and I abstain from signing any of the purchase orders or even okaying the funds. So yeah, you can kind of shield yourself away from that, but I have no conflicts of interest that I can think of anyway.
I don't have any conflicts of interest either, so I think I'm very clear.
All right. Well, thank you, audience, for those quality questions. And we're going to conclude the event tonight here with closing statements. So now is the opportunity to make one last pitch. Today was the first day of early voting, and the big day is coming up on Cinco de Mayo, folks. So that is election day for this primary. So we'll go ahead and start where we began, alphabetically, with Mr. Tim Boone.
1 minute, or what's the time?
For this, they get up to 5 if they want to take that. If they have enough energy to go 5 minutes, by all means.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank. Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. I'd like to thank the other candidates. I think this has been very well done, and it was an honor for me to be a part of this, and maybe get to know all the candidates here a little bit better. I did have the privilege years ago to be invited by Pam Hall, who was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and it was on the Key Initiative program, and this was in 2006, and I brought the flyer with me. But anyway, I was invited to that because I was a business owner in Marion County. And anyway, there was a gentleman that spoke. His name was Bill Hudnut. He was the previous mayor of Indianapolis. And he's the one that got the dome built. And he got 29 townships, I believe, to all come together. He merged fire departments. He merged police departments. And he really worked hard to get this done. He was brought in to Marion. Pam Hall requested that he come in and look Marion over first. And I went to several of these meetings, and he took a day and he drove around the city of Marion, he drove around Marion County, and he looked at everything. He looked at the railroads, he looked at the highway system, he looked at fire and EMS, he looked at the police force, and he looked at future expansion or places that could grow. So when he was done, he came back at that meeting and he said, Marion City and Marion County have everything they need. He said, Marion City and Marion County need an attitude adjustment. And what he meant by that was people need to kind of pull up their bootstraps and get to work and make Marion what it can be. And I think coming from that guy, that said a lot to me. So I think Marion County, Marion City has a lot to offer, and I would just like to see Marion come back to the greatness that it was at one time. Like I said, when my family moved here in 1970, Marion was hopping. You could go to work anywhere, get a job. If you quit, you walk out, you go somewhere else, you had a job. So it was really, really hopping. But also I wanted to state that I'm the chairman of the Marion County Township Association. We had a vote, and this was on the opposition to the connector. And this is all your townships, and all 15 townships were represented, and it was unanimous. And I pulled the vote, and there was not one nay against it. And a letter was drafted and sent to ODOT stating that opposition. So I think, I'm pretty strong in that stance there. I do think we need to do something with that, but it needs to be done on State Route 23. Improve that. That's to me what it was meant for in the beginning. Some things were done incorrectly, but I think those can be corrected. And I can't see buying all that land that they're talking about buying. But anyway, kind of in closing, I just want to reiterate that my business and my public service for all these years, I think, would qualify me to really help Marion City and Marion County and get back to the greatness that it once was. I want people to be born and raised in Marion, and if they go away to college, I want them to come back and work here. I have 2 grown children. They grew up, went to college, and left. And I remember sitting in one of these meetings at the Marion Area Chamber of Commerce, and I asked a question in this meeting. I said, how many people have grown children? College-educated grown children? Raise your hand. About everybody in there raised their hand. I said, how many of them are back here living and thriving in the city or county of Marion? About 3 hands. And I'm not exaggerating on that. That's the truth. But I think Marion has great potential. I think if we can get private monies and work with public monies, and I think we can get this economic development machine rolling again. I know it's here. It's just a matter of bringing it to the surface. So I would appreciate your vote on May the 5th. Let me get to work. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank everybody that came today, especially our hosts and the church for opening their doors for all of us to be here. I think this was a good opportunity for all of us to engage with each other, engage with you, and answer questions. I am very focused on being an advocate for Marion County. I sit on several boards. I am known as a connector and a leader within our community, and I plan to use those tools just as I have in the other aspects of what I do. I'm very action-oriented. I look at problems. I have a plan. I am definitely a planner to look and see what we want to do with our future. I'm discouraged that there's not a comprehensive plan for Marion County right now collectively. I believe that we need to engage more with our townships, our villages. Everybody needs to come and be cohesive together to come up with a plan for how we're going to move Marion forward. I believe that I'm that leader to do this. I am, as they say, not a politician, but I am somebody that is an advocate for our community. I do believe that we have great people within our community to do this. We have the ability. We just have to work together and be collaborative and have a leader in place. And I promise to do that. And you will not see me only just at election time. I am engaged and I will do as I say. I would appreciate your vote now and through May 5th, and as your next Marion County Commissioner. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I as well would like to thank the church for having this and being raised in this church. I never imagined a political forum being taken place in this church. So thank you, Pastor Floyd and Vivian, for hosting this. And I also want to thank the candidates that are to my right and left. Tonight we were asked some tough questions. We gave our answers, and neither one of us said a disparaging comment to the other. And I think that's how government and our candidates should act. That's how I campaign. I think I campaign for either of these 3 candidates more than I do for myself. When someone comes to the door, they say, "Who are you running against?" Well, I name them all. There's a lot of us. And then I end up talking and giving compliments about each one of them. And that's how I will continue this campaign. And I ask that early voting has started. Go vote at your convenience. Mail-in ballot, that has to be turned in now. The law has changed. It has to be turned in and received by the Board of Elections on election day by 7:30. And those traditional voters, please vote on May 5th. And I hope you select Jason Shaw. Thank you.
Probably a lot of you people want to know why I'm running again. I guess I took a little step back there and got beat by 56 votes, but I truly enjoy serving the people of Marion County, and that was one of my goals in life. I've done other things to get to that position. I'm not a college graduate. I did some college and, but I did the school board to learn public financing, and I just think that you need somebody to move back into this position that has experience. We've had one that hasn't done a lot in the last 4 years, but I'll work very hard, and along with the other 3 candidates, I know they'll put their time in, and we all have our ideas, but I have no specific agenda other than trying to balance the budget and serve the people of Marion County. And I guess I have the experience, and I feel that I'd appreciate your vote in the early voting and on May 5th, and I would work hard to continue to be your Marion County Commissioner. Thank you.
All right, folks, let's hear it one more time for Tim Mooney, Christy Neff, Jason Schauber, and Ken Stuyvesant. One of these 4 will be your next Marion County Commissioner. So I hope you learned a lot about them, about their position statements. I think it's important that people are involved locally. Local politics is key. Just like I said, all politics is local. So ask them any question that you might have as they head on out the door and on the way back home, or reach out to them, give them a call. It's important. This is a crucial election. I mean, everybody kind of says that this is, the next election is so important and everything. But it really is. Marion is facing some significant challenges at all levels of government. County, city, schools. We don't know what the future is going to hold for that. We need somebody in there that's going to have the right principles. I mean, this is a Republican primary. And I don't know about you out in the audience, but there's far too many Republican in name only people out there that sell out their convictions after they get elected. So we can't have that. We have to demand more from our elected officials across the board. And there's no reason that Marion cannot be another regional powerhouse once again. It was for most of its history, and only over the last 30, 40, 50 years has that situation declined. But in a historical perspective, that's just a blink of an eye. So it's time that we get back to what made us great. Make Marion great again. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And vote now